Across Australia's capital cities, there was about 1,200 auctions over the weekend, returning a clearance rate of 68%, which was pretty good. But there's a big contrast, though, between Sydney and Melbourne. Looking at Melbourne, there were 167 auctions in Melbourne. About half of them were successful, but the other half were withdrawn from sale. So 50% of houses withdrawn from sale. That's a very high number. Of the houses sold, about 90% were actually sold prior to the auction occurring. To put this in perspective, this time last year there was almost 800 auctions in Melbourne. So there was 167 this weekend, 800 this time last year. The clearance rate the same time last year was 75%. So you can really see the Melbourne market is struggling. But the big strength over the weekend was Sydney. There were 730 homes auctioned in Sydney, clearance rate of 74%.
Wow.
And the number of properties for sale in Sydney is at its highest level since April this year. So Sydney market seems to be getting better each week. Melbourne seems to be taking a couple of steps down each week.
And it's the same thing for Sydney, Ed, in that are the auctions actually taking place or the buyers getting offers beforehand and kind of sticking with that?
So the properties sold prior to sale in Sydney, I'm not sure the exact statistic, but it is actually quite a bit. It's quite low. It's much lower. It seems to be more auctions are definitely taking place in Sydney on site and getting cleared at auction.
Okay. Ed, on to the Reserve Bank. Tomorrow it will hold its September interest rates decision. Are we expecting rates to stay on hold?
We sure are, Pete.
Yeah.
We're expecting
for a while,
rates
I would have thought.
Yeah, so the Governor has spoken about potentially 3 years having interest rates at 0.25%, which is the current record low. And we can expect them to keep rates on hold tomorrow. Tomorrow we should get an update from the Governor on how the economy has been tracking over the last month, whether it's rebounding as well as the Governor would like. We should also get an update on how much money the Reserve Bank has spent buying government bonds. Last month at their interest rates decision, they said they were going to start buying bonds again because they were worried that interest rates would creep up a little bit. So they've been buying bonds to keep the cash rate at 0.25%. So we should get an update on the total figure. It was about $51 billion last month. It may have gone up slightly.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's a big week of figures, isn't it, Ed, on Wednesday, because the June quarter GDP figures will be released. I suppose then Australia is officially regarded as being in a recession. How large a contraction are economists predicting?
Well, for the June quarter, they're predicting a 6% contraction in GDP for June and year-on-year contraction of 5%. So it would be the largest quarterly contraction for a quarter ever. And it would, yes, kick Australia into a recession for the first time officially since 1991. That's obviously 2 quarters in a row of negative GDP growth. All the economic data from that quarter has already been released in regards to labour force numbers, retail sales, payrolls, COVID-19 household survey. All that stuff shows us there's been a very large hit to economic activity in the 3 months to June. For example, unemployment in June was 7.4%. The labour force survey shows hours worked fell about 8.4% during the June quarter. Many people are obviously unable to attend work due to the partial lockdown. So looking ahead to the September quarter, the key will be whether Australia can really keep a handle on the coronavirus and stop it spreading too much. We know the other states, apart from Victoria, are meant to be rebounding quite a bit at the moment, but Victoria is obviously not rebounding at the moment. It's sort of Melbourne is shut down. So the key will be looking at September and seeing in a couple of months' time when those figures are released whether we get any growth for September or whether it's flat or potentially negative due to Victoria.